That's good. This is good. We're situated with beer. Frankie's gonna hopefully be good.
Oh, I love when Frankie makes an appearance.
Yeah.
Because I hear it and I know what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Kentucky Commons Radio Hour. I'm John Ronayne, here with Michael Moeller, and we're the Louisville Ale Trail guys. Our third guy, David Satterly, he's flown the coop down to Texas this week. So if you're listening to this, David, you're fired. We are joined, however, by a much better third element or third
Sorry,
piece
David,
of the triad
I'm
this
taking
week.
your spot.
New host,
Guest host
Kindsey Bernhard, of the Boys Are From Marzen podcast.
Yes.
And of Highwire.
Yes.
Beer company? Brewing company?
I think we're brewing.
Brewing. Got it. Yeah. Which is based out of Asheville, North Carolina, but which has a lot of awesome like satellite locations. Mm-hmm. The newest, or one of the newest of which, is here in Louisville.
Yeah, the newest one outside of Asheville. We opened a third location in Asheville. More of just a distribution center, but with a beer garden. So yes. Latest one outside the city of Asheville.
If you guys haven't been there, it's a really cute little spot. It's that development that they did in the old Phoenix Hill area. There's a bunch of little shops and whatnot. That's where y'all's tap room is.
Yeah, we were essentially cool. Where the old Phoenix Hill Tavern used to be. One of the original facades or sides or doors or windows, whatever you call it, is still there. It's part of our tap room. So there's still a little bit of the Phoenix Hill Tavern that lives on.
That's awesome. And you can still go there. You can probably get better beer now maybe than you could back in the day with Highwire there.
I would assume so.
There's also the Goodfellas Pizza down there, which is awesome.
Just opened, yes.
And people always complain about this if you're, somebody listening trying to come into downtown. You guys have a little parking garage kind of behind you.
We do. That's
a nice thing.
Yeah, it's
one of the biggest things that people don't realize is the street parking is free. And we have a parking garage around the back. The first two levels are free for retail. So if you're going to Goodfellas, if you're going to Crowley's, the chicken place, or else there is parking in the garage behind the tap room.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of my things when I first heard that Highwire was coming in that location. My very first thought was, oh, nobody's going to be able to park.
Yeah.
And I remember you asking me that. I was like, no, we have a whole garage. Yeah. Not a whole garage, just the first two levels. I always tell people, once you hit the gate, turn around. Those are for the residents. You will get stuck in there if it's after hours.
Yeah, that's what, an extra 100 spots, though, or something, I would say.
Yeah,
that's huge.
I guess about 80, but I'm terrible at guessing, so.
And you guys are kind of in that cool little, like, brewery corridor, too. So when you're out going to, Gravely, or if you're out at Mile Out or Fall City, or all the other ones that are around there, you guys are right in that little kind of hub of coolness.
Yeah, it's making that, Highlands, when it splits into, I guess, Bardstown to Nulu, kind of that connection that gives people more reason to walk from Gravely to us and then down to Bardstown, which really, there was no reason to do that when those tenants underneath the apartments were empty.
Yeah.
So you brought some beers.
I did.
Yeah, let's drink some Highwire beer.
Can you tell us about this beer?
Well, I haven't tried it yet, so we're all going to be trying it together.
Oh, nice. Is that the Italian Pils?
This is the Italian Pils. It is our latest limited lager series. So each month, I want to say month or 2 months or month and a half, we release a new lager. We always partner with Riverbend Malt House, which is based out of North Carolina.
Those guys were in here recently. Very nice guys.
Yes. So this is the Italian Pils. It looks very Christmassy, but it is the Italian flag.
The beer looks beautiful. If you guys are listening, you won't be able to tell. If you're not listening and you are watching, thank you for being one of our patrons. If you guys want to get the video feed and see this beautiful beer, go over and be a member of our Patreon. But it's beautifully pale. Super light and bright. First thing I noticed when I cracked the can was that nice little pleasant kind of like bohemian floral, grapefruity, hoppy aroma.
It's very easy to drink.
Yeah, it's super good.
4.2% dry hopped with Michigan grown. Oh gosh.
Yeah, you guys are awesome too because Highwire always tells you like a lot of the ingredients.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm gonna have
it's got to be some kind of a like a offshoot of Saaz or something. Yeah. I'll say Super Sauzer. I think that's like a souped up Saaz strain. So I'm not super familiar with it myself.
Yeah, so it's Michigan grown hops. So
that's awesome.
It's maybe why the name changed, but it is dry hopped. So
well, that's one of the things I think is cool too, because like I mean, I guess really the malt's American and the hops are grown in America.
But it's an Italian beer.
But it's an Italian beer, and I mean, it tastes every bit as crisp and clean as like. There's a lot of malt snobs out there. I don't know if you guys know this, or malt couture, maybe malt couturists. But people we've recently not been able to get the German malts, the Belgian malts, even now the English malts are all out of stock. So we've been looking to get a pallet from Riverbend. We've also been using a lot of Proximity and Montana malt, which is just stuff that's made here in America. Of course, Breese is always awesome for that too. But it's, American Pilsner malt's every bit as good as those high country German Pilsner
That's what
malts.
I say every day.
Yeah.
When I wake up, I have a little sticky note on the mirror that reminds me of that.
We're going to start making malt in America.
Epiphany out of Durham.
Uh-huh.
Do you use them?
I've talked to those guys before, but we've never been able to buy a pallet.
I have a really cool hat from them that I stole at the Pink Boots conference.
Oh, nice.
That's why I thought of them.
Well, yeah, that's super crushable and good beer.
Yeah, it's the first time I had it. Very good. In cans now. I don't know when this was released, but it might be on draft. We're just waiting to go through some other beers. Other local lagers beer that we have a red lager on, which is great, very similar to an Irish red, so great for the holidays. Yeah. A dark Czech or a dark Bohemian lager.
It's all the rage these days.
Yes. And then we also have a blonde Bock in cans.
Very nice. Oh, I'd love to try that.
All those are the limited lager series. Lots of lagers.
Yeah.
Which is one thing that Highwire does really well that people don't think about is these lagers.
So if you guys have been to Highwire already, you've probably seen Kindsey back there busting her butt. You basically are running the place, or it's running you, one or the other. How did you take us back? How did you get into craft? You're still on the young side.
I am.
David Satterly side of the 30-year bridge or whatever.
26, so even younger.
Right.
Gosh, that makes me sound so old, but also very young.
You're doing great. You got your whole life ahead of you. But how'd you get into the whole craft beer world?
Oh gosh. So I went to UK.
Same here.
Yep. Lexington, kind of at the time I started, I was old enough to drink, promise. I guess my junior and even my senior year, started checking out the local breweries in Lexington. So at the time, obviously West 6, Country Boy just had their Lexington location. I remember checking out Mere Twin, Blue Stallion, and just really loving the vibe and the overall feel of those places. Very different from the bar scene. I was never a liquor drinker. I was always the person who went to the bar and asked for a Bud Light in college, when all my roommates or friends were ordering, gin and tonics, vodka sodas, and then just kind of found that there was more flavorful beer than a Mich Ultra, which I definitely drank a lot of in college.
Well, I was a Stroh's guy back in those days.
Still am.
I think, Mich Ultra appealed to women, as much as I hate to say that, and I got suckered in.
Well, hey, these days we can all use those low carb, low calorie options.
Oh man, I don't know the last time I've had a Mich Ultra. It might be since college.
I don't remember last time I've had that either.
Just kind of fell in love with it. Fell in love with the beer community. It was a journalism major at UK. Graduated obviously with a degree in journalism, got into marketing, hated the 9 to 5. Well, not 9 to 5, but the 9 or the 8
9
hour.
to 9.
Yeah. Yeah. Michael just got up a call from work.
It was, thankfully, my first job out of college was essentially a 9 to 5 day. Sitting at a desk all day, got really bored, got tired, kind of was doing some beer writing on the side during all of that.
That's cool. Okay.
And was I hate writing about, dumpster companies and window companies, and I was doing content for their social media, essentially a copywriter. They don't use that word anymore. It's a lot dated, but doing that for companies, I didn't care.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, hate this. What do I want to do? And I was like, well, okay, beer. I've always enjoyed writing about beer. Let's work in beer. But I had no real experience other than just doing some part-time bartending. I actually went in Cincinnati State, Community and Technical College, obviously in Cincinnati, Ohio, has a brewing science program. Randomly got an email from them, because I think I had previously wanted to join the program, but just never going back to school, paying, tuition again. Sure. Was it's nope, can't do that. Randomly got an email. It was are you still interested in this? We saw that you how technology can see if you start one, put one information on a form, they'll really email you. And it was perfect timing. Moved back home with the parents. Got my certification in brewing, marketing, and sales from Cincinnati State.
Hell yeah.
Started working at some breweries in Northern Kentucky or a brewery, and kind of went from there. Now I'm down here, and Louisville's always a city I wanted to end up in. It's a very cool city, brewing scene here is great. It's growing. I was living with my parents, so it was time to move out eventually. So, and now I'm here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But not to... You also had a lot of experience doing some beer writing as well, though, before you actually started working in the scene. I mean, I guess you were always working in the scene, but even before your last couple jobs, I mean, you were writing for Kentucky Sports Radio about beer. And if for those who don't know, Kentucky Sports Radio is not just about Kentucky or sports. Like, it could be anything, really. And that's kind of how they draw their audience in.
Yeah, so I was like I said, I was a journalism major in college, and I always thought I wanted to do sports, which is really funny right now because I didn't watch any basketball last night. Which, if you said that, if I said that to myself 5 years ago, I thought I would have been crazy. I was the most sports obsessed person. The pandemic, I think, changed that, but that is a whole conversation for a different day.
Totally. I think a lot of people feel that way. I've heard other people say the same thing.
I'd turned on a movie rather than watching sports, and which is crazy to say that after being so sports obsessed. But yeah, I started, I was writing for Kentucky Sports Radio, covering obviously the sports, and specifically I was covering the football team. So I'm one of those rare big football fans over basketball fans, but mostly because I just covered the team is when Stoops arrived. Anyway, in the summers, we kind of had free range to write whatever because there was no sports going on. And I was like, well, I like to write about beer. Why don't I write about breweries in Kentucky? And if you like Matt Jones, you hate Matt Jones, one of the things he loves to do is to promote local Kentucky businesses.
Totally.
Kentucky owned, Kentucky run, whatever. So when I pitched him the idea, he loved it. Like, he's like, that's great. Promote whatever Kentucky businesses you want. Kind of got to travel, and this is quotes, I know this is a podcast, around the state. And
Beers with Bernhard.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, Beers with Bernhard. I was like,
awesome.
Was that the name? Started just like profiling all the different breweries in the state. And that's kind of where my, love of beer started. And then also my love of writing about beer, which I still do. And maybe we can get into that a little bit later. But yeah, it was really cool to see all the different breweries in this state and just how passionate people were. And this was still before I was working full time at a brewery. And I was like, and through that, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to work in beer. I want to work for a brewery. And we have so many unique breweries across the state. So it's really fun to get to know all those people. I mean, I visited people in Paducah, to Northern Kentucky, to obviously Louisville, Lexington.
Oh, no, you missed an opportunity. You could have said from Pikeville to Paducah. Oh. And you didn't say that.
I didn't get to Pikeville, so that would have been a lie. I guess it would have been from Paducah. What's the furthest?
Pennyroyal
I went
region.
to
the Pennyroyal region.
Paris to Paducah. I did
That's
Paris, Kentucky.
That's beautiful.
I don't think they're even an active brewery anymore, but yeah, Paris to Paducah. That's
perfect.
Up to, there's no P name in Northern Kentucky, so.
Who knows?
Yeah, we have to search.
But you do have a podcast.
I do. That sounds so annoying to say. I have a podcast.
We have a podcast. And to say. You just own it.
Oh my God. Whenever I tell people I have a podcast, I'm like, that sounds so annoying. And they're like, and then I tell them, like, that's so cool. And I'm like, it's still annoying.
Tell us about the podcast.
I do have a podcast.
Leave positivity.
I am proud of my podcast. It is just a little weird to say I have a podcast because everyone has a podcast.
I'm basically an influencer.
Yeah, like I get beer samples sent to me. Hey, no. I have a podcast. It's called Boys Are From Marzen.
That's a great name.
Yeah, really great name. Yeah. One of my friends came up with it. No, I'm just kidding. It was Michael Muller. He came up with the name. Told him I want to start a podcast. Couldn't come up with a name. I'm a big fan of puns. So obviously Boys Are From Marzen. Or Marzen, like we say it very Americanized here, so get over it. Play on the word Boys Are From Mars, just a kind of a saying you say as a kid. I don't even know where it came from. I should probably know that information. Marzen is essentially just an Oktoberfest. But yeah, started that, I got laid off during the pandemic, like a lot of people did. I started a job with the Kentucky Guild of Brewers here in Kentucky as the communications coordinator. And then COVID hit. Breweries, they didn't have, the guild obviously, had them stop paying their fees, which was my salary. So, got laid off from that. Obviously, a lot of people got laid off. I was living at home with my parents at the time, so I was very lucky that nothing affected me terribly. So I was like, everyone, you're bored during,
totally.
I was keeping a routine of doing the same thing every day. But after 3 months, it gets a little hard to do that, even if it is like, get up, work out, walk the dog, eat lunch, watch a movie,
go to bed,
walk the dog again, work in the garden.
And then it's like noon, you're like, a beer sounds good. And then it's like 5 o'clock and you're like, a sixth beer sounds good. At least that's me during lockdown.
I don't know if you all, but I had a hammock in my room at my parents' house.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I remember just laying in my hammock one day and be like, I just can't do the same thing I've been doing for 2 months. I'm like, what should I do? What have I always wanted time to do?
Yeah, there you go.
Start a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person where 90% of the time I'm listening to a podcast other than music. So I'm like, if I listen to a ton of podcasts, I can do my own. So when I thought about, I was going to obviously do a podcast in beer. I'd been working in beer for a couple years at that time. But my thought is, there's a lot of beer podcasts out there. Well, how can I make mine different? So I'm just going, I'm thinking I'm in women in beer. I'm very passionate about advocating for women and minorities in beer. And I was going to say, okay, I could have a women in beer podcast but let's take that further. I'm going to have only women in beer podcast. I'm only going to have women and non-binary people on my podcast. And it's like that. At the time, there wasn't any other podcast like that where it was just a podcast hosted by a woman talking to another woman. There's a lot of just like, diversity podcasts about beer, blah, 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 but never a woman interviewing a woman. So I started this podcast, and what I tell people is you can skip the first 10, 15 episodes because they are terrible. Like any start to a podcast,
yeah, we know. We know that internally. Like we've had the same.
Yeah, I should have done a bunch of test runs and then re-interviewed people. I might go back and re-interview them and delete those and just re-upload them.
I don't think that people like. If those audience members, those people that you got early on listening, it's fun to see the progression. I've seen how good, much better your don't delete anything. Skills get.
I deleted something and I kind of regret it. My very first episode that I did for Building Breweries was with Trey White, the president at the time of Anderson Valley Brewing Company.
Okay,
that was the first episode. Yeah. I had no business talking to that dude. And then looking back, just
pretty big brewery
for comedic value, I should have kept it.
Yeah,
because it was awful.
Oh gosh,
but. The point to that story is don't delete your podcast.
I won't. After 15 episodes, I really grew. I kind of figured out where exactly I wanted the podcast to go. In the beginning, and I will tell people not to do this, which I was doing in the beginning. I was basically asking the question of what's it like to be a female in beer. I don't think I was saying it exactly that way, but that was kind of the basis of the podcast and how can we make it better. And after about 15 to 20 episodes, I was like, there's no point of this type of podcast. Like, we know what it's like to be a female in beer. It's kind of shitty. So it's like, okay, how do I, make this actually interesting content? So what I started to do, and obviously what I do now, is I make my podcast very, career driven. I usually take the interviewee, the guest, and we go back from the beginning and how they got into beer and we go through the story of their career to where they are now so that, whatever that person's story is, because I've had brewers on, I've had owners on, I've had managers on, I've had sales representatives, I've had marketing people, I've had influencers, journalists, executive director of guilds, of state guilds, of maltsters, of just homebrew. Like, if a person works in the beer industry, even just like dipping their toes in, I'll have them on my podcast because it's so what that's I like. You get that. You have a really well-rounded view, and I do that because I want I want to say some young girl. Obviously, that's not the case, but I want somebody who's like always
little Susie, 7-year-old listening to a podcast.
Make beer, goddammit.
Yeah.
If some kid did tell their mom or dad that they wanted to work in beer by listening to my podcast, even at the age of 8, I'd feel a little proud.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You should feel proud if that were to happen. Maybe it already had. I bet it's already happened.
Well, if it has, let me know. But no, I want people to listen to it and be like, okay, Shelby, I don't know why I said Shelby, she got into beer this way because she liked to write. Yeah. So now she covers the beer industry for Good Beer Hunting or Brewbound, or she's a contributor for all these different outlets in San Diego, and she writes about beer. I love writing and I love beer. Or I hate math and science, but I can sell the shit out of things, so I'm going to be a sales rep for a brewery. Or I love marketing and all that stuff, I'm going to be a marketing manager for a brewery. There's so many jobs for breweries that aren't just brewing. And I think it comes also from a personal aspect. Is like, I've only brewed twice and I've like helped, like I've dumped hops into the kettle. I haven't even like hooked up, like brewing is not my thing. It's not I'm interested
It's not that
in.
complicated.
Well, not even just, obviously working for a brewery is really fun and it's, it's important if that's what you're into. But if you just want to get involved in beer, there are hundreds of jobs in different industries that are all part of the beer industry that can help you. I mean, whether it's working with like maltsters, if it's working for like a yeast company, yeast cultivation, or a POS system. Like there are so many ways to be involved in the beer scene without actually working at a brewery.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are, they get so focused on working like I said, working in the beer industry as a brewer. And it's like, you don't, like, there are hundreds of other jobs. You can work for a hop farm. You can work for a hop company.
Yeah.
You can
even
super
be like
nerdy about, you can be an accountant. You can be, if you love HR, you can be the HR manager of a, like.
Who's the beer aficionado guy at a Revolution?
Doug Bilecki.
Yeah. What, didn't he do like a combination of accounting and marketing, and then that's what guys propelled him into?
You can work in the lab and look at stuff through I've almost said a stethoscope, but that's not the right word.
Yeah, I mean that's why you're not working in the lab. But yeah.
No, I would be like, I see something. They're like, there's nothing under the light right now. We don't have any slides on there. That's just dirt.
Like, don't trust me.
They're like, Kindsey, it's not even plugged in. I'd be like, oh, yeah. There's so many jobs in beer, and so like, find what you like to do. And I came from a little bit of a marketing background in writing, so I kind of got into the marketing part, and I'm still doing that. But like, I like to manage. I like to use my hands every day and crawl on top of the walk-in cooler to do stuff, to move kegs in the POS or in the POS system. That too, move kegs in the cooler. I just like to be. I don't want to say I like to be the boss, but I like.
Well, that was one thing I was thinking of when you were saying all that stuff. Is like you kind of get to be.
I get to be a little everything. I wear a lot of hats, and again, that can be stressful. But I like that because I like, I like to be in charge of things, and you can do that as a manager. And you
need to learn new stuff every day too. Like there's never a day that goes by you don't learn some random new little factoid, or like learn how something works, or take apart a keg faucet.
I still, part of that is I get to clean clean keg lines and clean faucets, and that for me is really fun. It's a lot of hands-on things, or like troubleshooting, or I have to come in here, the home I always get it wrong. Brewgrass
homebrew. The homebrew store works though.
I can never say
it's
that.
It's a tongue twister.
Brewgrass. The homebrew supply store here, and like get some washers and steal one of John's faucets on accident, which I did return. So it's very hands-on. You get to kind of troubleshoot things, which usually if you're working in a a common brewery or just like a normal brewery setup, you'd have a brewer come in and do it. But it's me, so it's fun. It's different. It's challenging.
It too. Like you wouldn't say, if you're somebody who likes beer, like you drink it and you enjoy it, you wouldn't think that taking apart a draft faucet, getting so frustrated trying to figure out how to put it all back together, but then when it works, you appreciate the good beer that comes out of it a little bit more. You're like, well,
we had issues with our handles being loose, and then I came in here and got different washers, and then or O-rings, and then they worked better, and it was so satisfying. I'm like, oh, that's all it took.
Yeah, and then how it's always kind of a mystery until it's like Zen in the art of motorcycle maintenance or whatever. It's like Zen in the art of taproom maintenance and management.
That's a job I've always kind of been interested in, as like a draft technician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would love to kind of go through that school that they have in Chicago or something.
Do they do that at Siebel or whatever?
I don't.
Is it something different?
I think it's through Siebel, or maybe I'm getting my information wrong. But there is somebody here that
there's a science to it.
He sends you up to that school for
maybe there's just like a
weeks or whatever
course part of Siebel or something.
Maybe
it's measuring the length of the draft lines and airflow and pressure and height differentials.
I have this kegerator at home that I still haven't hooked up yet.
Oh well, yeah. We'll do a live podcast.
Yeah,
hook up Michael's kegerator.
That's funny. So, working the beer industry, it's funny. You get charge of like whenever I go home to my parents, I have to clean their draft lines because they do not clean them, and my mom just throws on every type of different beer, and it like makes me a little nauseous. She's like, "You want some of the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale?" And I'm like, "Maybe tomorrow."
Like
yeah, maybe right after that big heavy stout they had on there 2 days ago. Yeah, that cherry sour.
Yeah, you definitely wear a lot of hats, especially obviously being a manager of a satellite tap room. But it's fun. It's hard, and some days are hard because it's just you. But you get to do a lot of things that you wouldn't normally get to do.
Yeah. and meet cool people.
Yeah,
and like that's part of the fun thing about having a podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna
like,
say actually the most fun people I meet is through my podcast. Even though I've done over 60 episodes.
Wow,
that's a lot.
Finally, you know, in the beginning I was just like putting out an episode, I recorded, got the next day because I was so excited. I'm like, I can't sustain that, and also like save them so you don't have to continue to just do more. So I'll plug it. You know, obviously they come out every other Wednesday, so I had one come out last Wednesday, so there'll be 1 and 2. I guess not today's Wednesday, so what is time? Next Wednesday. It just gives me a chance to, you know, get some really good interviews in, not feel rushed to do them. I obviously have a full-time job. This is something I do on the side.
But it's all kind of interconnected too, which is another
very
fun thing about here. You know, it's like,
you know, people were, you know, I've got to start to meet some of my guests in person, which is exciting through different conferences, and that's been a lot of fun. You know, I feel like I know these people because I have them on my podcast. I really get to know them within the hour and a half we're talking.
Yep.
And then we kind of stay in touch through social media. And then when you meet them in person, you just like,
I already know you.
I feel like I know you. And you know, when I do these, I do a lot of research. I mean, I am a journalism major, so I understand the importance of doing research and asking really thought out questions. And so I feel like I really know these people. And it's funny, I'll ask people questions. They're like, man, I haven't thought about that job in forever.
Never ask a question you don't already know the answer to.
Right.
I should probably learn that lesson, huh?
Yeah, it's funny. I'll ask a question and they're like, that's a really good question. And I was like, well, I read every news article about you. I know your mom went to but it's fun. I really, you know, I also challenge my guests to answer questions that are a little bit tough because, I mean, a podcast full of easy questions is very fun to listeners, you know. People like to hear some really, you know, tough questions and some that kind of have tough answers and that are really meaningful, you know. So it's a women podcast. We talked a lot about the Me Too movement that happened in beer, and other, you know, tough conversations like that. And I hope people who listen, you know, take something away, whether they're a female who works in the industry, they're male, they're non-binary, they're white, they're black, they're, you know, whatever. It's a podcast for all. It's not just females who listen. I know a lot of men who listen who really gain new perspectives from it. And to me, that just means the most.
Yeah.
You know, I never want to put somebody in the place to where they feel like it is their job to educate me on a particular topic, because that's my own job to do. And it shouldn't be on somebody else to train me or make me think like, but if it's brought up organically in the podcast, like you have a platform for, that's where I come in and appreciate it even more.
A lot of it too is just making it okay to talk about stuff that's kind of uncomfortable. Is like, it's not gonna, if you just don't look at it, it's never gonna get better.
Obviously, after the stuff with Rat Magnet, we brought it up because it would be, you know, a dishonor on my part to not deliberately bring those up and ask. And I just said, what are your thoughts? And I just let people speak because I didn't want them to lead them a certain way. I wanted them just to share what they thought. And if they wanted to share experiences, they could. I didn't ask. And that was huge. A lot of the things that I'm dealing with now, and especially the last podcast I recorded, is burnout, which is really huge in the beer industry. We have some really, you know, tough and important conversations. And, you know, I've learned a lot through my guests, and it's taught me to be a better person in this beer industry as well.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit, because this is something I've been wanting to talk about for a while now, and I never really felt, it wasn't a comfort thing, but I feel like I didn't have all the facts. Yeah. And I feel like you might have more facts than me.
I hope so.
Can you talk a little bit more about the Brave Noise open source brewery collab?
Yeah, so the Brave Noise, and I had Ash Elliott, the founder of it, or the co-founder. I haven't been able to get Brianne Allen on. I've messaged her on Instagram, but she's probably a very busy person. So I've tried to get her on. It's been a little bit harder, but I won't give up. But yeah, so the Brave Noise collab is essentially, it's one of those beer collaborations, those worldwide beer collaborations, which breweries brew this beer. And I can't remember, I don't think there's a style. I think it should be a pale ale. I don't think there's like certain ingredients you have to use. But with it, what you have to do is you have to publish a code of conduct for your brewery or organization. I'm sure most of it's breweries, and I apologize, I'm not super familiar with it. And I had Ash Elliott on after they announced it. So it's been a couple of months.
That's all right.
So they have to publish a code of conduct. I believe Brave Noise has to approve the code of conduct before you can make this beer. And it's a really cool thing because what we see, and then you have to donate part of your proceeds to an organization that Brave Noise approves. They have a list of organizations on their website, one for every state. So if you don't know where to, you want to donate it to, it's obviously a women supported, some kind of nonprofit organization. You can go to their website and they have a list, at least one for every state. They have one for Kentucky. So if you're interested, I believe it's a women's shelter in Maysville, Kentucky. I remember looking that up.
That's super cool.
So yeah, it's same thing. You know, it's very similar to, obviously very, very similar to what like the Black is Beautiful was, the Resilience IPA. Yep. Obviously this one's, you know, very similar to the Black is Beautiful. It's for a like, you know, drawing a blank on the word, but like a meaningful cause. Yeah. Obviously, you know, the Resilience was about fires and all these are great because the money's going to something important. But the biggest thing that we're seeing, you know, as, you know, especially me who have a voice in this industry and how loud or quiet it is, you know, what we're seeing and we're talking about internally is the lack of people doing this. There's a lot of breweries that aren't doing it. In Kentucky, we don't have any that have done them right now. But as of today, I believe there are 5 breweries in planning, all in Western Kentucky, which has been spearheaded by Kate Russell, owner and brewer of Hopkinsville Brewing Company. She brought up the idea, or we all kind of brought up the idea a couple months ago, doing it for our Pink Boots collab. But then we wanted to be able to, we figured other breweries would want to participate if we brought it up and not just doing it as a Pink Boots collab, because obviously there are some breweries that aren't part of Pink Boots because they don't have any female brewers. Yeah, sure. But we know that they'd want to participate. So I believe actually today, when we're recording this podcast, they had a meeting, you know, how they're going to do the code of conduct. So what they're going to do, and I will name the breweries here in a minute because we want to shout them out. It's awesome what they're doing. They're going to all brew the same beer. They're all going to they're going to make a code of conduct together that they all agree on. And then they're going to, you know, publish the code of conduct for their breweries and then release the Brave Noise beer together. I know in Western Kentucky, they have started a hop trail. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Similar to what the Little Ale Trail is for Western Kentucky, because there are actually a lot of, I say a lot, but for, you know, these small cities in Western
And they're all like, you know, newer too, which is awesome.
And they're all like,
newer.
Pretty close to each other. So it's Henderson in Henderson, Kentucky, Dry Ground in Paducah, Bridge Brew in Owensboro, Gasper in Bowling Green, obviously Hopkinsville Brewing Company, and maybe one more, and maybe one more. But yeah, they're all doing this together. They had a meeting over it. They kind of have their own meetings as Western Kentucky breweries. Mm-hmm. And then I know Kate brought up the idea. All the other breweries were super excited and wanted to be a part of it. And I think it's really cool. And I hope, you know, other breweries in this state or even, you know, just this region see it, because there are, I mean, obviously there's not a lot of, obviously no breweries in Kentucky have done it, but there's a lot of breweries in just the United States that haven't done it. And, you know, we saw everyone come together for Black is Beautiful. And while that's great, it's like, okay, why stop at one of those? Mm-hmm. Why not do more?
Yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity for beer to be used, you know, I won't go so far as to say like for a force of good or whatever. That's, you don't want to try to get too high and mighty on yourself, but it can draw attention to the areas where it can actually have a little, like a tangible impact.
Yeah.
And even if that just is people having conversations about it, and if that is like, you know, obviously raising money to help people in need and to good causes and whatnot.
And then I think what I really like about this one specifically though is it's not just write a check and donation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's providing
trying to make the culture shift a little.
Exactly. It's giving pen to paper accountability. Yeah. Saying, hey, at one point we definitely said this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you see a lot of these breweries being like, okay, we're gonna have a diversity training and we're gonna watch this video and we're gonna brew this beer. But okay, like you can say that. The Brave Noise Collab makes you take that step further. You can only brew this beer and get all the, you know, the images, the graphics, the labels, the approval, if you put this code of conduct in place that I believe that they have to approve. And that's just something different that we haven't seen with a lot of these other collabs.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing a lot with like Ukraine, and there's a brewery out in Arizona that's I saw just today. They're doing one for like Native Americans and protecting lands. Oh, cool. It was Wilderness Brewing, I believe, started it. It's called like One Nation, One Land. So it's like, there's so many cool ways that beers can just like, you know, promote really good things, or, you know, help promote really good things in the States, you know, shine light on some bad things. Obviously, the Brave Noise kind of came out of something that wasn't great in beer. But it's like, okay, yes, we can brew these beers and donate the money, and that's easy. And that's what we saw a lot of issues with Black is Beautiful is people just brew the beer and donate the money. Well, that's pretty easy for a lot of breweries, especially the bigger breweries that did it. But it's like, how do we take that step farther? How do we actually do actionable things instead of just writing a check and mailing it and then just moving on?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you check the box, but like of doing it, but what can you do to take it a step farther? And that's what a lot of us, obviously, women and minorities are kind of frustrated with, is like all these breweries are doing the bare minimum to say we did it. We brewed the Black is Beautiful beer. Oh,
Sure.
Cool.
Yep.
We wrote the check. We donated to this great organization. But you look at the staff and it's all white.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, how do we continue to fight?
Yeah.
And
Figuring out those hows is really tough to do because it's like, it is. I mean, beer is just, I get, you can make the historical argument. Like it was just a import German, Irish immigrants and it was a man's game. But historically, beer has not been a man's game. Historically, it's been brewed primarily by women. And it really, I guess, wasn't probably until like the Dark Ages and whatnot, when the monasteries kind of kept those traditions alive, that the men in the Catholic Church kind of like got hierarchical control over that, because it was a good way to make profit. And it was a good way to kind of like have a product that everybody wants to come get or whatever. So I think it's, gotten to be kind of I wouldn't say like an old boys club or whatever, but there's definitely like some broiness to it.
I think, I really do think the days of just like people thinking of brewers just as men and flannels is over. And yes, we'll still make those jokes and I find them incredible.
Yeah, well.
You're not a brewer.
Hey, flannel is a very practical.
Oh, I wear flannel.
I know.
But like,
how's my beard?
Yeah, like I think the days of like those jokes annoy me because I don't see that anymore. It's like I'm so over being like it's people wear flannels and beards. It's like if we still continue to make those jokes, then yes, it's going to stay that way. And then I will touch one more thing on my podcast. It's like, when I ask, questions, I don't ask anymore. I did in the beginning and I've learned and grown. I don't ask what it's like to be a female in beer, because what I do is I just have a conversation with someone in beer, like, because they belong, because if you ask what it's like to be a woman in beer, we're taking 5 steps back.
And you're almost framing the argument.
I've never been asked what it's like to be a man in beer.
You don't ask them. So I'm like, and it's like, we want to normalize it. I just want to talk to Kate from Hopkinsville about just like, friend, what kind of beer she likes to make. What's her, because then if you just listen to that conversation, it becomes normal.
Yeah, it reframes the whole thing.
It's not like, oh man, she's a woman in beer. It's like, no, she just works in beer.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter her gender. And I think it is getting better, the female representation and even, non-binary and just minority, Black and brown people is so much bigger in beer right now, because there's such more of an emphasis, but there's more of an open space. The Me Too movement, what it did is it shined light on all those bad apples, and we got rid of those bad apples. Yes, there's some that are still hiding under all the other good apples, but if you're bad apple in beer, you're going to get called out and you're going to face the consequences.
Well, beer is like in and of itself, it's like something that humans evolved with as a way to kind of come together and form social bonds and all that kind of stuff. So having it be an environment where everybody feels welcome, and if you're anybody on the planet or anybody if we're here in the United States or in Louisville, however local you want to make it, but you should be able to see yourself going into a place and being comfortable, and just going back to kind of like a marketing storytelling thing is like, that's kind of a good first step, is just to start saying, hey, like, this is a welcoming place for everybody, and doing those small little actions just projects that message. It tells that story.
Be a third space.
Yeah. And Michael can touch about this. It's like, think about your social media. Go through your social media. Who does your social media appeal to? If it's just,
bros.
If it's just men on your social media, like, subconsciously, like, you don't think about that, but like subconsciously, like, other people do. And like,
I just, from a marketing perspective, it's like, hey, if that's your audience, like, whatever, but you're missing out on a whole like bunch of customers
just
that you can get in your
pictures of cans of beer. If you don't know how to do it, just post cans of beers.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not.
I just realized I have the squeaky chair that you'll talk about.
Yeah, the squeaky chair.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this entire episode counts as the High Wire reference.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're very good, David.
Just to touch on that real fast, though, right around, I'm not going to name names, but with my old agency, during the blackout Tuesday event on social media where brands were kind of taking a stand. I worked with a certain Kentucky beverage company not related to beer who kind of struggled with that for a couple days. They didn't know how to respond, if they even need to respond, and if they do respond, how does that look? What does that look like? Fast forward like a couple weeks later, they decided, hey, you know what? We need to start reaching out to to our influencers and make sure that they're people of color and have better representation. And we reached out to one person who was based out of Cincinnati, and she looked at the Instagram page, and the first thing she said was, I understand what you're doing. I'm thankful for it, but I'm not going to be the first.
Yeah.
Because right now, every single person, and they were right, literally every single person going back for years of Instagram posts was white and primarily male.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up that point. You can also, what am I trying to say? It's the same thing when you're looking for jobs too. Like if you're looking for a job and you don't know what breweries you want to work for, a good indication is to go to their social media.
Sure.
Did they post, something about the Blackout Tuesday? Did they post an International Women's Day post? Are they doing these beer collabs? When all this Me Too movement came out, did they post a statement? Those are first really good indicators of, okay, this is a company that cares, that will publicly share that they care. Some don't do it publicly, but maybe they're doing it really great internally, and you won't be able to figure that out. But those are, or just like your shopping habits, like go to a brewery's social media, figure out if they care about these issues.
Well, and if you're somebody who like manages your, company's social media, it's like when you, it's often said in food and stuff, but I always say in beer is like, you taste with your eyes first. And if you're trying to introduce somebody to your brand, their first taste of your company is likely going to be through social media.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to kind of, I'm not a big fan of like virtue signaling or anything like that, but it's, I think, very good to be mindful of it and just to have it be part of your corporate culture, just to have it be like, we're aware that maybe like the Louisville Ale Trail is a company that's
absolutely
3 white dudes, but we wanted, we try very hard to make sure that we don't only talk to ourselves.
Yeah. And
we want to talk to everybody.
I would say all of you reach out to me about you were very aware you're 3 white male dudes who are doing this, but you'll reach out to me. You'll reach out to other people in this industry who are, to go things over to get a different perspective. And that's really important, because if you're just doing it like, oh, I think this is how we do it. Like, yeah.
And that's how it's gotten this way too. Is it just going back to maybe the Catholic Church taking over it all. It just becomes an echo chamber. And then those become the norms. And so, and people, I'm sure there are people on different ends of the political spectrum that feel different ways about things. And if you're someone who's like more like conservative or libertarian or whatever you want to say, some of this stuff might make you like, oh, well, these people are just doing this for blah, blah, blah. But it really is actually kind of a pushback against, it's not like it's necessarily natural that this is how it is. Beer and the world should be a cohesive place. There shouldn't be these little bubbles and pockets of, I don't know, just it's identity politics on both sides. So being broad and being open and just having a good mindful approach to it where it's part of your corporate culture, I think is just huge.
I will say one of the biggest things, I hear from people is like, oh, I don't want to get politics involved in this. Well, beer is politics.
Everything is politics. Everything,
or even culture, You
need certain Senate bills to be passed to help get self-distribution. You need, Congress to pass so you can ship beer. Like, no offense, saying I don't want to get politics involved with this is just lazy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Everything is policy oriented. Everything. And
a lot of it, again, like we were talking about the kind of the executive order that Biden did about opening up competition and stuff like that. And it kind of the same thing. It's not like this is us trying to like change the world. It's trying to make the world go back to normal, as from all the kind of crap that's been just the detritus of history or whatever.
I got really lost during that conversation.
I did too.
I was like, I know John's making sense, but it's not making sense to me.
If you ask a fish, like, how's the water today? The fish is like, well, it's water.
Yeah.
So we all kind of live in this environment, and it's easy to kind of take this as the natural state. But if you look at it historically, like it's not the natural state. There's no reason that beer is like a perceived as a white man's like industry or whatever, like a beer bro or whatever. So taking active steps to change that is good socially. It's good politically, and then it's also good economically because it broadens your market and it just promotes more butts in chairs, which is what any kind of good business wants.
And the last thing I'll say, because I could talk about this conversation for 3 hours, and I know we all don't want to be here. It's like beer's not the only industry doing this. Wine,
no.
Wine is having it.
Yeah.
Bourbon is having it. Spirits are having it. I was just, Louisville just hosted the Craft Beverage Expo, and we had a Women in Beer Expo, and there was bourbon there, there was wine there was all of us, and we're all like talking about the same thing. So
that's super cool.
I know obviously we just hear beer a lot because that's what we're in, but like, gosh, imagine being a Black woman CEO of a bourbon company in Louisville.
Right.
There is one.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine her, she walks into with her husband, they go to her husband first, like, and she's like, no, I'm just here to take pictures. Right. Like, so like, this is just not a beer problem. So, if you follow the beer industry, you might get annoyed with it because you're seeing a lot. Well, you see it everywhere as well. So I'll kind of end on that. Yeah, is my last point because, like I said, I could talk about this for 3 hours.
I will also, let me end it on this though. On my.
You can end on your note.
Yeah, I remember. Like it also, I'll say it has to do with servers that don't drink beer, that make those assumptions. Because I remember really a random memory. Like 3 years ago, I was at dinner with my parents. And this middle-aged woman who was our server, she came to us. She told my dad and I the beer list, and then she told my mom the wine list. Yeah, and I was like, huh.
We've got a nice Appletini.
Yeah, and I was like, no, my mom actually wants the beer. She probably likes it more than my dad does.
That's my mom. My mom too. She's like, she started with wine, but then kind of like discovered that that's a great way to kind of taste bourbon barrel stouts and stuff. And now she's like, well,
my mom
equal opportunity.
Texted me the other day that she had a smoked beer.
Nice.
I'm like, Mom, that's a smoked beer.
Speaking
She's
of which, I kind of want to try.
That's transition.
You're
she was drinking one of Gravely's smoked beers, and she was like, I really liked it. I was like,
Smoke Signals.
Yes,
that's great.
She was like, I didn't know what it was. I just saw it was Louisville, so I ordered it, and I was like, Mom, that's a smoked beer, and she's like, it was really good.
So speaking of smoked beers,
we just cracked a Grodziskie.
Grodziskie from Dovetail that Kindsey brought.
So I've had these in my fridge for a while.
It's still holding up. It's fine. It's great.
I don't like smoked beers, and it's a beer you need to share with people, so I brought it, and Dovetail is absolutely fantastic.
So, these are usually beechwood, but this smells a little bit more cheery or oaky or something. Do they say what they... Oh, yeah, oak smoke. Okay.
It smells like a fire pit.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't even... Well,
makes
you say
my
that.
eyes burn like a fire pit.
So Kindsey says that, but she's admitted to me that she doesn't even like going to bonfires.
Yeah, I don't like I don't like the smell.
The smoke, you get the smoke follows beauty effect, where like no matter where you sit, the smoke blows right into your face.
See, this
and I get headaches.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
So Grodziskie is one of my favorite styles, so I really appreciate you bringing this one.
It tastes like a fire pit to me.
You were just in Austin.
Yeah, I was just where David and I missed each other for a week or by a week. Yes, I was in Austin. Austin's an amazing town.
Yeah.
Great beer town.
You did not go to Live Oak.
I did not,
who makes my favorite Grodziskie in America.
But I did bring home a 6-pack, which I know when I went up to the counter, she was going to tell me my bag was overweight, so I just had my credit card ready.
I thought you were going to say you like shotgunned a beer or
well,
something.
She was like, it's 7 pounds overweight. Can you take anything out? And I was like...
I can drink 7 pounds of beer in 5 minutes.
Allegiant.
Yeah,
it's 40 instead of 50, and I was thinking 50. I was like, this is not 50. But I just knew. I was like, I had 2 6-packs, a 12-pack. It was worth it.
I agree.
If any of our listeners have never had a Grodziskie,
this is interesting.
I think we might be working on one of the fall cities, so we'll have a local example. Does anybody else in town have a good smoked beer on right now? Against the Grain has always got some kind of a smoked thing on.
So we're not talking about Grodziskies, but just in general smoke,
or just any smoked beers if people want to try them.
Yeah,
traditionally
like
back in the
just
day,
said, Gravely has Smoke Signals on. I think that was on even just last week. Yeah, so that's still around.
This is interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. We're talking about kind of beer history a little bit, but part of the brewing process after you kind of moisten the grain and let it start to germinate and then dry it out, that's called malting. It breaks down a lot of the starches and carbohydrates into more fermentable sugars and stuff. But back in the day, they used to have to kiln them, and the only way to do that was with like smoked fires and stuff like that. So a lot of beer historically, whether they meant to or not, probably had a little bit of that flavor into it.
Sure.
But it's really cool that people kind of keep that alive, and a good Grodziskie is a good beer.
Are they typically lower ABV? This is 3.8%.
They're often sessionable. Yeah, that's just however it's designed.
Yeah.
Like the Rauch beer is like the biggest kind of one that's you see in Germany and stuff like that. But it's just designed to be light, sessionable, and the smokiness kind of almost acts like a little bit of like a. It almost affects your palate the same way as like barrel aging does tannins out, or like a little bit of IBUs to kind of counter sweetness. It just adds that little bit of kind of bite.
It's a beer
dryness.
that can be enjoyed winter or summer.
Great with like food or something like that too, barbecue or chicken or like whatever, or tofu on the grill. We do a lot of that
because like people talk about like stout season in the middle of winter, and that's true. That sounds great, but if you just want something to satisfy that without actually getting like a high ABV stout, this does the trick every time.
Yeah,
any Grodziskie.
You
love it.
I love it.
It's very. I get the citrus, which is insane, but I'm not kidding you. It kind of burns my eyes like a way a fire pit would be if it was blowing in your face.
Maybe you have that same effect where if you like get hammered on tequila and you get all that pain, anytime you smell it, you're like remembering the bad times. It's like, this smells like the time that my eyes fell out of my head.
All those bonfires that Kindsey was around when she was 21, popping those Michelob Ultra caps in her pocket to keep count of how many beers she tried.
Yes, because of Lake House. That is actually maybe very. My parents have a lake house, lots of fires.
That's exactly. You just brought back the Make Ultra reference. There was a poll that was done. I think it was just released today or yesterday by YouGov.
Hiding it from us.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit of an interactive segment here. I think it was by volume, but they basically got the stats on the 10 most sold beers by volume in America last year. Top 10. You guys want to make any guesses? We can start with number 10, or you guys can just guess. And I'll tell you if it's in the list.
Let's go back and forth.
Okay. By volume?
Yeah, and I will tell you, there's almost no surprises in here.
Oh.
And we're going by SKU specifically, not just brewery.
I believe it's just by how much of that beer got drank in America.
So not just Budweiser, but you're also talking like Bud Light Lime.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's specific brands.
Okay.
Yeah, like products.
Gotcha. Number 1, I'm gonna go Bud Light.
That is number 2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'll go with Coors Light.
That is number 5.
Mich Ultra is number 1.
Number 6.
Oh.
When they get to being obscure, I'll spill the secrets. Didn't make the cut.
Really?
Sorry, PBR. We love
you. Shoot, I'm down one.
Miller Lite.
That is number 3.
Okay, hold on. I think I got number 1.
High Life.
Not on there.
God,
surprisingly.
What's wrong with these people?
Oh gosh, what?
Duh.
Oh my gosh.
I know number 1.
The other ones are kind of surprises to me. I would have not. That's not where my head would have immediately gone.
What's a really cheap beer you drink in college? You buy like a whole 24-pack of it.
Right? Oh, Natty
Light.
Not in the top 10. I'm sure that's
Busch
number
Light.
11. Busch Light's number 7. That's in that same vein.
I thought that was gonna be...
Keystone.
That should be on there, and we should talk about that too.
Yeah.
But that did not make the cut. Number 10 was Bud Light Platinum, which is like basically their malt liquor version of Bud Light.
Oh man, I got drunk on that in college.
Obviously.
Number 9, Bud Light Lime.
Yeah.
I do admit I have crushed a 6-pack of Bud Light Lime.
What's number 1?
Number 8, Amstel Light, which I did not expect to show up.
Heineken?
Heineken is number 4. You nailed it. Heineken Light specifically, but we will accept it. And number 1.
Is it like
you're in the same
Milwaukee's best?
That is not it, but I'm sure that's up there. You're in the right vein of thinking Heineken. Even though
Corona.
it's not jerk. There you go.
Yeah.
Number 1, Corona.
What's wrong with us?
Yeah. I guess they just sell so freaking much.
We need to find
stuff.
our beach.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting. No Modelo.
I love Modelo.
I'm bougie. I like a good Pacifico.
Pacifico's great.
Pacifico's a good beer.
Yeah, it's great. I also am like a sucker for Mexican lagers in the summer. Yeah. Although a lot of people like make those locally now too. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, my whole point in doing this would then be to like I was gonna promote your all's just American light lager. If this is like the top 10 selling beers in America, obviously Americans have a thirst for light, crisp, crispy
Grodziskies
beers. Yeah, exactly.
They want the smoke.
If you are one of those people,
to be honest, they're all chain smoking and down in their Amstel Light anyway. So
it's
like
kind of the same like effect, basically. highly encourage you. Obviously, our listeners are all big Bud Light drinkers and all that kind of stuff. We're really preaching to the choir here. But go to a local brewery and try their lager. We have such good lagers made here locally. Well, everything from, this is High Wires. I freaking just love these cans. They're just nice, light, tall boys, good lawnmower beer. Your All's is fantastic. I mean, almost every brewery in town these days has an excellent lager. Yeah.
West 6 Mexican Cerveza.
Yeah, the Cerveza's dope.
Or the Cerveza. Yeah.
So if you're a crispy boy
from Against Grain, I mean, you can't go wrong with a good lager, a good craft lager.
I mean, you can.
I mean,
people go wrong with lagers because lagers are hard to make
and they take time.
But that's a really
take
good one.
Space, But when they're good,
they're great.
They're great.
I think that's the Against the Grain motto, or something like that. Well, let's see. Oh gosh, we've been going for about an hour.
I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. I got more stuff we could talk about, but we do want to be respectful of your time.
We're gonna cut all this out, right?
No, this is all staying in the podcast.
I don't like that. Okay.
Anything else that you had on your list, Michael?
Yes, absolutely. Kindsey's been talking about all of her.
We have our surprise beer.
Love of beer, but what she didn't mention before is
my love of wine.
Is
kidding?
Is that the love of beer also bleeds into her house? With her two favorite creatures.
Oh, I was like,
isn't Oberon Day soon?
Monday.
Yeah, Oberon.
So Kindsey has two dogs named after beer.
Well, Otto's a human.
Beer-related
dog names, yes.
Yeah.
But in the spirit of Oberon and being bells, I thought I'd bring in a beer that's going to be special, but also something I know you're not going to like. The 35th anniversary Expedition Stout that we can all try right now.
Hell yeah.
So we can say that you've had it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be weird to talk about my dog's names and not explain what they are.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh gosh, 11.5%. My dog, I have two dogs. My first name is Oberon, and yes, he is named after the beer. Oberon Day is March 21st. If you're here in Louisville, we will be throwing a big party at
it should be on Monday.
Yeah.
It should come out
if you're listening to this
today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're throwing a big party at PG&J, so come hang with us. They're tapping it.
If you've never been to the dog park bar either, you're missing out. Go to PB&J's in general, but specifically
there's
today.
your plug for them. They are a Louisville Ale Trails. They work with you all.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And then my other dog is named Otto. He is named after Otto Dewar, the first brewer at Falls City.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I actually did not know that. They named their Bock after, or their Oktoberfest after
Otto
Fest. Yeah, that's right. Awesome. I did not know that.
It's a great name. Great name.
Whenever I need a name, I just text Michael. I'm like, Michael, I need a name for this. He came up with that, and they're my two O's.
Heck yeah. Well, they're both.
So if I'm not working or whatever, you can usually find me at the dog park bar, the dog park, or just drinking with my dogs.
So just for context, this Expedition Stout, like I said, it's the 35th anniversary Expedition Stout Reserve. It's an extra special Russian Imperial Stout.
Ukrainian Stout.
Yeah. Expedition Stout is the longest brewed Imperial Stout in the U.S. First brewed in 1989 to be robust enough to hold up to time and travel. We couldn't think of a better beer to honor for our 35th anniversary. We've brewed a special, stronger version for your cellar, your travels, or those special occasions of your own. This was packaged on September 3rd, 2020. So.
It's 2020, so that's 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, almost.
Wait, it's like last
year and a half ago.
I'm just kidding.
So, 11.5% out of bells.
Rich toffee Tootsie Roll aroma.
I have such bad sinus issues, I can't smell anything.
It's
bad to be like
a
person in beer because I never can smell anything.
Especially in like the Ohio Valley.
It smells like cake.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's holding up great. Super rich, super creamy.
It's really
clings
good.
on the front of your tongue, just very sweet. But really,
sweet, but not annoying.
It's got that balance.
There's a little bite at the end.
In the back. Yeah. It moves towards the back of your tongue.
I should be a beer judge.
Basically.
That's really easy.
Yeah,
a lot of chocolate there in the back of the tongue.
What do you think about the whole Bell's New Belgium merger acquisition? You guys think it'll anything will change, or you think it'll mostly just be you can still go buy Two Hearted?
Yeah, no, I think nothing will change. Just more money between the two, and kind of just doing Dogfish Head and Sam Adams or Boston Beer did.
It's strange to see all these like mergers and acquisitions, but I think, at the end of the day, the way I look at it is if we ever want to see like craft beer show up on one of these lists, it's like nobody's at the scale to be able to rival AB InBev or whoever owns Miller now. Like Heineken, I think, is the biggest selling beer in the world.
Listen,
Corona might be. I don't know.
Sam Cruz owns a T-shirt that I want.
Yeah,
and it says "Craft beer is dead."
Yeah,
and that resonates with me.
Yeah,
I think it is for a few different reasons. One, what does craft beer even mean?
Yep.
When they move the goalposts every year to be included in the Brewers Association for Boston Beer Company. I mean,
exactly.
When their number one beer brand is
the
Truly, and like, what does that mean anymore? So if companies like Bell's and New Belgium, even if they have a parent company somewhere else, if they're keeping to their message that they've always had,
they've always been huge community advocates as well.
New Belgium's like a B Corp or certified. Like it's New and Bell's is right there with them, and so many different sustainability efforts and community efforts. I don't care. It's all no. I mean, I do care, but like,
no.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I do obviously care. It's all about the idea of like, just drink domestic, drink beer that you want to drink.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I believe Larry Bell's children or daughter didn't want to take over, and so he did the next best thing for him and his family, and he's gonna retire and have a great retirement, and Bell's and New Belgium will be in fine hands.
It goes back to that, like, the culture starts at the top thing, and they're both, as far as I am aware, and then knowing people who've worked for them and whatnot, they seem like really good corporate cultures.
I mean, we were just talking about it 2 months ago, last month. Monster Energy Drink buying out craft beer portfolios now.
Exactly.
So like, what does craft beer mean anymore? Is it more of a stylistic thing? Is it a state of mind?
It's a marketing
like,
word.
I love and appreciate the BA and what they've done over the years, and I think their work is still important. But the independent bottle thing on the side of their labels now, that really doesn't mean much to me anymore.
Well, Wicked Weed's owned by AB InBev. Like,
there used to be, I'd only buy if it had the independent seal on there, but yes, obviously you still want to, but it's not hard for me to buy a Bell's beer, or, I guess technically I guess they wouldn't be independent anymore, but it's not hard for me to buy, like a Boston. I guess technically but that seal doesn't matter. What it used to be. And I think as long as you're supporting a good company, or a good brand, who cares what you drink?
And again, going back and looking at it historically, like, it used to be that the only reason we have all these different styles of beer, from Hefeweizens to lagers to stouts to export stouts, to Grodziskies to, like, all these things, is because different regions of the world both had their own things. And it wasn't really until the Industrial Revolution that, like, companies like Carlsberg and Pilsner Urquell, like, and Weihenstephaner got huge market share just because they got there first. And then you even saw a lot of diversification after that with all the little small breweries that came in America and all that kind of stuff. And then all that got shut down by Prohibition artificially. And there was the big guys left. Craft beer kind of was a response against that, trying to change the perception of beer. Like, they used to market it as
the alcohol that won't make you go home and hit your wife.
And like, they were also
literally, because it wasn't a spirit.
And
during Prohibition and whatnot,
European, it's in just European cultures, it's meant to be enjoyed.
It's better than soda. Like,
and like pasteurized, bitter free. Like, it was just homogenous, like, whatever. So if craft beer is dead, I think that means that craft beer won to some extent, or is winning.
That's a very philosophical point of view.
It's, we've captured the market share. We're growing up. We're showing up. We're glowing up. Whatever you want to call it.
All glowed up.
Yeah, and we want to do
against
it
the grain. It's all glowed up.
Yeah, like, when I tell people, they're like, "What do you do?" I was like, "Oh, I work in the beer industry. I don't work in the craft beer industry."
Yeah,
I work in the beer industry. Craft is, you can say like, there's craft bourbon, there's craft wine. Like, what does that even mean? It was supposed to mean small and independent.
Yeah. It's like artisanal.
Yeah. I work in the artisanal beer industry.
Well, I don't mean to, this is maybe a wrong parallel, so correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of what you said earlier, what's it like being a woman in the beer industry. No, you just work in the beer industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like
What's it like being Kindsey, like in the beer industry, or
just like what's it like being a craft brewery?
yeah.
What's it like being a craft brewery in the beer industry? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm a brewery in the beer industry.
I make beer.
Yeah. I still make beer just like everybody else. I just have a smaller system.
And yes, it started calling craft, and we're probably going to call it craft. And obviously, I'm not going to yell at anyone who calls it craft, but
no.
Maybe I will.
I will say I had a weird conversation with somebody recently that is very young and new to the scene. That's a great beer, and I wanted to down it.
It's 11.5%. I'm sure it kills all.
Would you rather have this or the Grodziskie?
Oh gosh, the I can't even say it.
The Grodziskie.
Yeah, that beer, because I will not be able to drive home.
Yeah, that's totally fair. But no, I was talking to somebody recently who's kind of young and fresh to the scene, not even really in the scene at all. But she wanted to learn about the beer space, and she had to interview me, I think, for a paper or something, and she was asking me these questions.
Is this the 1980s? The paper? Oh, like a paper in college.
He's a newsman.
I thought you meant the newspaper. Like the paper, the Sunday paper.
No. A paper. Also, well, never mind. But
was that on TikTok? I don't get it.
But she was like, so do you only drink ales, or are you good with things like Bud
IPAs,
or Miller?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. Like, I mean, no, I'm good with lagers. I'm good with sour. Like, I don't know. I'm not just drinking
lagers and ales.
Yeah, like I'm not just drinking ales. And then it took me a second that she was referring to all craft beer as ales.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it took me like 2 sentences for her to say that in an example. It's like, oh, so is that the perception of people that are outside of the industry or not familiar with the beer space to think that, oh, craft beer that we're calling it right now, that's somehow an ale?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, as somebody who talks to new people getting interested in it every day, 100% yes. People, it's very confusing. We take it for granted again, because like, hey, how's the water today? What's water? Like, we live and breathe this stuff. Like, drink it as much beer as water, probably, but like, there's a lot going on. Like, it's ales, lagers, then it's like stouts, bocks, doppelbocks, porters. What's the difference between a porter and a stout? That's a whole other like conversation.
There's some Guinness over there.
I know as well. Well,
my favorite thing, and it bless their hearts, is that people come in and like, I really like ales. It's like, okay,
all right.
Here's 2/3 of the menu.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you like to drink? They're like, I love Bud Light. And I'm like, no, they think Bud Light's an ale, because like, for reasons who knows, but.
So is that something that we can do? Is just to help educate people? Not we. Like,
I always tell people too, like,
I was like, wow.
That's like the only good thing about Untapped, in my opinion, is that, and no one uses it this way, but it's a way to kind of remember what you drank. And then if you're like, hey, I really liked this beer. I really liked this Italian Pilsner. That's not a bad example because it says Pilsner in the title. But like, I really liked this, beer that I had at High Wire, low pitch or something like that. Like, what is that? And then you can go on Untapped, you can figure out the style, or you can go to your website and figure out. Actually, Highwire's I'm talking really fast right now. Highwire usually tells you the ingredients and stuff like that. They'll give you a clue of kind of what goes into that.
Yeah, I believe is
which, as a home brewer, I
even love. Like our cans have like the hops, like the level of malt, hops, and color.
So I think just being mindful while you drink is the best way to make that not intimidating. And the research is fun. Yeah. And so, like, obviously when people come in, like, I really like ales, I don't make them feel stupid. And I'm like, oh. Fucking idiot. These are all ales.
I mean, there's times I want to. That's right. But I'm just like, oh, like, so you're probably just, and I educate them. I'm like, you're probably thinking of lagers. There's 2 types of beers. There's an ale. I mean, yes. There's 2 types of beers. There's a lager and an ale, and an ale's this and this. And then like they're like, oh, and some of them really appreciate the clarification, because then the next time they don't feel as stupid going in. And
that goes back to that whole thing of just, we could talk about appealing to a diverse population of people. Yeah. Appealing to people who only drink Bud Light is another huge way to kind of bring people into the fold, introduce them to things they're uncomfortable with, get them to broaden their horizons. Like, beer is going to make the world a better place when we all come in and drink together, basically. So not making people feel stupid, but just using it to be like, oh yeah, here's something I love. Like, here's some information about it if you want to know more. Or if not, here's some beer. Like, you can go enjoy it.
Here's the closest thing to we have a Bud Light. You'll enjoy that.
It's beer share culture too. Like,
totally.
Just also amongst friends and just talking to people that I mean, hey, I think you might like this, so I wanted to bring this for you to try.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or same thing with wines, finding a nice little like, a framboise or
Yeah, totally.
a nice sour, a very wild sour, just if they like bourbon, finding a good dark beer,
bourbon barrel stout or something aged. Yeah.
Everyone says, oh, I don't like beer. It's like, no, they just haven't found that one beer that
Exactly.
changes them. So if you have people in your life who are like anti-beer, it's like, find that one beer that you think they'll like and start letting them explore. Find similar styles. Find, 8 different bourbon barrel age, and then maybe just go to a stout, and then maybe just go to a porter, to a barley wine.
Hell, make them a shandy.
And if you have any friends out there that are seltzer fans, well, I'll tell you what, you should try
Mountain Water
from Highwire.
So good.
Yeah,
It's a beer
really good
for your seltzer friends.
I'm making myself not drink it because I drank way
It's
too
so
much.
good.
It's like it literally is like the ambrosia trickling down from the Appalachian
I don't
Mountains.
know what kind of sorcery Highwire did to make it, but it is so good.
Yeah, it's like
I will be having it in my fridge to the day I die if they're still making it. And even if I'm not working at Highwire, if I'm living in like England, I'm gonna be like, you need to ship me mountain water.
Oh, so that's the thing. Like, what is mountain water? I don't even remember what it is.
It's a beer. We call it now that I don't, you had a can over here last time I was in here, so I was like, maybe it's back there. I think it's considered a citrus ale or and essentially it's a beer, but we used the 4 ingredient, like people are like, it doesn't taste like a beer. Well, like technically it is because it's made with hops, water, yeast.
Yeah. My impression is it's just like an adjuncted beer. So instead of just using pure barley, they throw some other stuff in there just to lighten it up. Basically, it's all fermentable sugar. So you could use corn sugar, cane sugar, rice sugar, which is a lot of what is used in like Bud Light, Miller Lite, all that kind of stuff.
The crazy thing about it, it's got the same calorie content of a 12-ounce serving of a seltzer. So if you are looking to watch your calories, carbs, whatever, and you want to still have a beer, a very good beer.
I appreciate those for just like day drinking.
It's a citrus.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's a citrus splash ale. This is really bad for radio.
I love citrus
or radio.
splash ales.
This is really bad radio.
Citrus splash ales are my favorite. 5 out of 5.
Get some Highwire or get some mountain water from Highwire.
Yes,
keep it in your
we have
fridge.
it. It's our new course, so it'll always be on tap and in cans.
What I do like about it is like it's different and it's light.
And it's new. I've never seen a product exactly like that.
Citrus splash easy drinking ale.
Perfect. Yeah, y'all nailed that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of anybody in the country that I've had that's done anything similar.
Yeah.
It is so good. I have not been able to get this description out of my mind since I first tasted it. But it's Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah. So Highwire doesn't like us to describe it to people as like Fruity Pebbles or Fruit Loops, but it tastes like Fruity Pebbles or Fruit Loops. Imagine that, but beer,
but not like
super
cloyingly like sugary. It's like still light and crispy, but it's got that aroma and flavor.
Essence.
Yeah,
like you're gonna want to drink this in the summer on the lake.
No, I want it now, like in February, March.
I want it when it's 10 feet of snow outside.
Can I buy a keg of it?
Probably.
Yeah. I just realized what I'm gonna put on my kegerator. I'm gonna get a keg of.
Michael's gonna come in once a week for a half barrel of mountain water. Finished it
more,
already?
More, sir. More.
I mean, honestly, because that's the thing about having a kegerator, and the reason why I actually haven't pulled the trigger or anything. I'm trying to think of like, what do I want to have? What,
a whole
60 beers of?
You can get like 6 stools. You can get pony kegs or whatever.
Yeah.
Too. You just let me know when you want that 6 of mountain water. I'll get it for you.
Oh yeah, sweet. Sold.
This is not a thing I'm gonna do for everyone.
Yeah, right.
Special occasion for special people.
Well, speaking of special people, thank you for coming on our podcast,
welcome.
Kindsey. If you guys are listening and you like beer podcasts...
Yeah, you're way better than David.
Yeah, David. Sorry, bro.
David, if you want to keep your job, bring me back some more Live Oak pills.
Yes.
Or Grodziskie.
We'll drink that. We'll put links down below, but go subscribe to Boys Are From Marzen and come see Kindsey down at Highwire, parking in the back. Great beer, great mountain water, like flowing where the mountain water flows like wine or whatever they say. Is it Dumb and Dumber, like reference where the beer flows like wine? Anyway, I'm old. You guys are young. It's okay.
Never seen that movie.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I know. I always like saying that. It makes people really angry.
Yeah.
Not angry, but
I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, that too.
Thanks, Mom. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you guys again next week. And for those of you on our Patreon, thank you so much. We cannot thank you enough. We hope you've enjoyed the absence of David and the addition of Kindsey this week, aesthetically. And to everybody else, have a good week. Cheers. Hey, Kindsey, remember that thing you said about how you've gotten much better at podcasting, like over the first dozen episodes or so? We just realized you didn't give us your show and tell because we forgot to ask you about it. But in addition to sharing good beer,
thank you.
As you were, thank you. As you were saying, it's fun to kind of get to know the people behind it and stuff. Right. So, what did you bring to share?
So it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to bring. I couldn't bring my dogs. I mean, I guess I could have. I don't know how Frankie would have.
Frankie. He's
but
usually
everyone knows I love my dogs. So what I brought, so I mentioned earlier, I was a journalism major and I covered a lot of sporting events, and I always kept my media passes for that because it's cool to go eventually, later on in life to go back and look at those. So what I've started to do now in my beer career, obviously I can't get media credentials for those, but I've started keeping my, I don't know what these are called, like
press passes.
Not press, just like your, I don't know. Credentials. Like if you sign to go to like a conference or you're an attendee.
I like to call it the
badge, your conference badge, your registration badge. Yeah, so I have my latest two. I brought my one for the Pink Boots conference, which was awesome. It's funny, it says Asheville, North Carolina. It was in Charlotte.
Nice.
At least it wasn't Charleston.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Pink Boots conference was in Charlotte, February 17th through the 18th. And this one was actually really special in the sense it was the first time that I've got to meet a lot of women in this industry that I've communicated over social media for the past 2 years because there hasn't been a conference.
Yeah.
It's every 2 years, but I think they had to skip a year.
When did Pink Boots start?
It's 15 years.
That's awesome.
I have a bag that's celebrating 15 years,
that's
so
incredible.
I know that.
So for context, Against the Grain opened 10 years ago.
Right. That's
Ice opened 10 years ago. Country Boy opened 10 years ago.
So 15, yep.
So Pink Boots has been open for 5 years longer.
So yeah, Pink Boots Conference, it was amazing with Charlotte. 2 days, got to meet and hear amazing stories from just such inspiring people who work in this industry. And then my other one is actually just from this past week, which these ones are really fancy ones. So
that's like pretty nice.
Oh, that's a pouch. What'd you leave in there?
It's like a joint.
Mints? Are there any mints?
Roaring River Distillery. It's in Indiana, Tennessee.
Weird.
But yeah, this one's really fancy. Put all your... I got more business cards in here. Let's go through.
Is that a Southern... Oh, yeah.
Oh, Diskin Cider. It's coming to Kentucky very soon out of Nashville.
That's awesome.
That's it. No more. But this one was from the Craft Beverage Expo here in Louisville. I was a panelist on I was a panelist during the Women in Craft Day on Thursday. I was on a panel called She's So Lit, which is funny because that would be the last word used to describe me. But I was up there with Andrea Mayweather and Brittany Penny, CEO of 2 Cents Bourbon Company, The Nine.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm, a new tradition of mine. Obviously, we haven't had these types of conferences in person where I needed to hold on to these types of badges. So hopefully I'll have like a ton by the end of...
You going to CBC?
I am going to CBC in Minneapolis. Just officially booked my plane tickets.
That's exciting.
Hell yeah.
I figure that makes it pretty official. So if you're going to Minneapolis, let me know. Hopefully I'll have a badge for that one here in a couple weeks.
That's a really fun thing to collect too, because it's so easy to just kind of toss that into the, just be like, okay, I'm done with this thing or whatever. Well, but holding on to those things and just going back and thinking about the time and just whatever.
It's like, I know Drew brought his pay stubs. These are my pay stubs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I was thinking, and then I still had this one laying on the counter and I was like, that's it. Because if I had all my press passes from my sporting days, I'd have really cool games that I attended and just jogs those memories. And eventually I'll do something cool with them, putting them in a shadow box. But
maybe this is me admitting my egoism or something like that. But whenever I get one of these things, like it really does feel cool.
Oh yeah, you feel official.
It's just It's
I was like putting it like through my arm. Like
I always just put it like this just to make sure I just walk around so everybody can see it.
I definitely wear it out after I still have it on.
It's like the guy with like the 4-year-old like Bonnaroo like thing around his wrist.
My perspective on that is oftentimes it's whether you're feeling like something like of an ego. I don't think that's it. I think it's more like along the lines of gratitude.
Yeah,
or pride.
Yeah, exactly.
Or pride. Yep. It's like, man, this thing that I did on a whim.
Because we all have imposter syndrome. It's
imposter syndrome, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? They think I belong here.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to belong here.
Also paid to be here, so just kidding.
That too. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I only paid to be part of one.
Yeah, that's freaking cool.
But Pink Boots, awesome organization. Check it out. Check out your local chapter. Check out the Kentucky one. I'm a big part of that.
Yeah, you guys do a lot. It's really, it feels like it's reaching the tipping point where it's like, it's 15 years old, but it feels like it's becoming a huge
This
part.
chapter's not 15 years old.
Yeah,
But
just the
what,
organization.
2, 3?
3, yeah.
You guys have done a lot in a very brief time during a pandemic.
And we're very small.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the whole state, and we maybe have 10 members, which a whole, Charlotte probably has like 30 to 40 members. And so.
And I know, Kate's not like, well, she's in charge, I guess.
No, actually, our new president is Stephanie Miracle from Mirror Twin.
I love Stephanie. That's great.
From Now Mirror Twin.
Now Mirror Twin. Okay, that's good. Backtracking, though, because we've just been talking about Kate a couple times on the podcast, and we want to do something with Hopkinsville at some point, whether it's like an LAT, like Saturday trip there or whatever. We want to try to get there, because I haven't been to Hopkinsville's Brewing Company in a few years.
Yeah.
I think the last time I went was during the when the shadow goes over the sun.
Yeah,
the solar eclipse.
The total,
or the
whatever they call it.
The solar eclipse.
Path of Totality.
The Path of Totality.
Yeah. I always remember it from the
that
Monic
one.
Scott beer.
Yeah.
Coffee IPA or whatever he made.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's good.
Scott.
But yeah, this is my
That's
show
super,
and tell.
super cool.
Maybe next time I'll just bring all my like actual sports, and we'll be like, okay, this is the Kentucky South Carolina game we won.
Hell yeah.
This was my first press connection.
Wait, were you on the field for that?
The one where we won in South Carolina?
No.
With Patrick Tolles?
No,
Oh.
in Kentucky.
No, I was.
Because I rushed the field at the one at UK.
I was in the press box.
Criminal.
The one where Zadarius Smith intercepted. Yep, I was in the
That's
press
awesome.
box.
Well,
See,
I
like I
forward,
remember that because I also had, you remember the games you got to go to and cover, and it's kind of the same thing.
Were you in Lexington any year that they won basketball or football?
I didn't cover basketball, but no, I wasn't. I graduated high school in 2013, so I missed.
It's been
the 20.
10 years since UK won a national title.
Yeah.
I was there.
Well, it's going to happen again
For
in
sure.
2 weeks.
3,000 years ago.
Yeah,
whatever the Lord of the Rings
but
quote
football, yeah, lots of fun football games I got to attend. So this is my beer version of keeping my press passes.
Do you think we'll ever see a job posting from a Kentucky brewery and it says something along the lines of now hiring, pink boots not required?
I would hope so, because
I would
not
hope so,
everyone has
too.
pink boots.
I just think that'd be cool as shit to see.
Or it might say like, no, okay, never mind. That's
You know what, though? Props to the first brewery that does that.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Just from a marketing standpoint, and it should be probably Hopkinsville, honestly. But anybody who wants to pick up that torch would be great. Because you see it a lot from the other perspective, and I think it'd be fun and cool.
Yeah, it would be.
Thank you, Kindsey, for coming. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for sharing the beer, drinking the beer with us, drinking that Expedition Stout, which is kicking in a little bit. So yeah, it's very good. It's candy. We hope everybody has a great week out there. We'll see you guys next week. And cheers.